ladies, if you don't have a man, you won't make enough money to afford being in a nursing home. Most women are going to end up homeless. They're not ready for that.
Well, they're relying
Society will,
on their children.
society, Social Security, disability, SSI will fracture if half the women in society who are going to be single need that much help all at once. It's going to be non-existent. The money to pay for that stuff, it won't. Your man is supposed to be in the house paying the rent for the bills. As soon as he dies off, one of your children, whom you gave generational wealth to, or can sell your home that you had with your man, can use that money to take care of you. The generational wealth is gone. The chance at financial freedom is gone, all because you didn't get married. And now you stop having kids, so those kids won't be equipped to take care of you. Women don't think about this stuff at all.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, and this is just a little bit of pushback. Is that when we're talking about that, let's say with like you're saying, women are not thinking about getting married. I think men are not, talking about getting married either. When we're talking about in these spaces, we hear it a lot that they're actually saying not to get married is not a benefit, which and I know that what we're talking about right now, as you get your older age, there is definitely a benefit. But with women, if we're talking especially Black women, we're saying, they are, head of their households, that the men of the fathers of these kids are not necessarily there. So when we look at the average lifespan of women and men are typically dying earlier than the women. And then when we look at the fact that if they're not in a household, we can assume that they don't necessarily have a relationship to the degree like with their fathers. So I think women will not necessarily, because they don't have a man, but they're going to be relying on their children that they had. So
That is that is so unfair. We also know that not only is it unfair, children that come from single mother-led homes are a significant less likelihood of getting married themselves. So now you're asking a single man or woman or your single son or daughter who's probably going to be, in their 40s, 50s, to carry the financial burden. The mother, have nothing to leave them, nothing to sell, right? As in a family home, anything. So the entire financial burden of a mother is on a child. This is why I said most women are going to be homeless. These kids or that woman's kids will likely just be self-sustaining and able to take care of themselves. That's probably what they'll be doing at that age. The medical bills and medication for their mother at that age will fracture them. That's why a lot of these women are going to end up estranged from their kids and on the streets because
I'm speaking from what I ain't gonna say what I know, because I know my own personal anecdotals, it does not necessarily represent the majority. But what I'm saying in terms of the people that I've been around and that I know, or who are currently in situations that have the mom is single and they have children and they're of age, that those children are taking care of the mom. They are. Now, whether you say that is not fair, when we look at historically, that's what families do. It's not just related.
We don't know what this new generation they on.
Right.
I was going to say that's going to leave. That's actually going to leave with this generation. The last generation that was raised right is going out. They're going out. So this is the generation of kids whose parents were never married, right? The last generation of married kid, like parent, these kids had married parents. They had married examples. We're going into Gen Z, millennials and Gen Z, who 70% of the Black ones, they never saw an example of marriage. Most of these men, unfortunately, I'm sorry, they hate their mother. They secretly resent her for not giving them a father figure and all that. A lot of these boys hate their mother, and the daughters hate their mom too. They're not going to. You see the jobs they're choosing. They're not getting married. That's the part about it. They're not getting married or creating any kind of substantial wealth. So that's why I brought up the example of them having at least one asset to take care of the mother with, right? My mom and dad still live together. They pushing 70. They've told me all of their plans. I'm the eldest. The second one of them goes, my dad said whether she wants to or not, it's probably gonna be me. You bring her, or you or your brother take her, sell that house. Don't let her keep it and have you paying mortgage on it or whatever. Don't let her do that. Sell it to take care of her. Right? So that's what this generation has. Our family built something that we can sell to take care of them. And life insurance. I'm sorry. Sell that if I need to, but I also got $1 million in life insurance coming when he died. These kids behind us, Gen Z and millennials don't have that. They won't have it.
We got a real bad deal when you think about it. Because we either was latchkey kids or a lot of people didn't have an active parent in the home. Then when they parent ages, they didn't really do everything that you might have felt was necessary for a parent that you felt was acceptable to do. Then when they age, we still got to take care of them. That's not a great deal. I ain't gonna lie. You didn't get what you needed when you're young, and now you got to get them what they need when they're old. I'd be really resentful.
But why would you? Because I mean, well, I ain't gonna say why would you, but when I just like how I said, when I think, and I think that actually speaks to the point that Trigger Mike, you were saying, or even Coach K, in terms of the nuclear family. To be honest, that was the life cycle. That was the expectation. That when you're young, of course, your parents, they take care of you, and then when they get of a certain age, then you take care of them. So I don't understand why that's not like a thing, like, or that's being looked at as not something that you know that's normal. So you shouldn't do. Like I thought that was what's supposed to happen.
It was a clip that went viral the other day about a young boy who his mother was saying how she bought him everything that he could have wanted. He had all the Jordans and all this stuff, and he didn't want that. He didn't want that. He wanted her there, and he was upset because she made him raise her kids for her. I think that there's more people that had to do that than maybe people know about. Especially how do you have multiple?
That's so funny. That's true, because people think, because I'm an educator now, but I remember I used to work for JP Morgan. And I remember when I had my son, I said, I don't want to work here. You know, I weaned my way out of it and went into education. I went into education for my child. I did. I left it. I felt like there was more motherly. I wanted to be involved in my child's education. And so I went and got my higher degree in education and left my job for that reason, so that I could have more time to spend with my kid and to be, you know, the best mom I could possibly be. Just wanted to share that.
That's a great story about how you did it.
It's so mistaken. You definitely hit the nail on the head. That is the unspoken agreement and sometimes spoken agreement between members of the nuclear family. There is no more nuclear family in the community. So that's no longer the agreement. And as Marcus said, the kids secretly despise their mother. They do. That's what I'm noticing now. They don't want to take care of her. And the worst part about it is that they feel that the mom did birth them as an insurance policy. They feel like it's unfair.
Or they felt like
if she birthed for insurance policy.
Some women are actually having kids just so they have somebody to take care of them when they're old. They're saying this out of their mouth on IG. The son husband thing. They're threatening. So there was a lady threatening threatening the son's dad. I don't need you anyway. My son gonna take care of me. I got all the men. I was like, oh God, he's gonna see this when he gets older. This is what the son husband dynamic is.
I think the father and mother roles are the yin and yang of a family, right?
Yeah.
And if you're missing, let's say, I'm gonna take it up for the man. Let's say you're missing the mother. I could easily see that the daughter accepting the roles that a mother might fulfill, and that daughter having an issue growing up, and vice versa. If you're missing the father, you put that same onus on the son to operate as the man of the house. Those things can scar children dramatically, and it can create a overreaching problem, because latchkey kids were pretty much their own parents for the most part. Their parents, you went to school, came home, The parents might have still been at work, and by the time you maybe got an hour with them before they went to sleep. It's really hard to give your kids what they need to, if nobody can watch them, especially in they most adolescent years. Because I think the person you are from like 0 to 13 is pretty much who you're gonna be as you age. Am I breaking up again?
I don't know what you're recollecting over there.
Yeah, but what I was going to say, isn't that the norm historically, even way back in the day? Like you had a bunch of kids, and you had kids, and then the oldest ended up rearing the younger kids. Even when we grow up, my oldest sister, we were of that latchkey kid generation. When my parents worked, she was in charge. So I think that has been a normal progression when you have multiple children. So I don't understand how that dynamic would be any different than that now.
So it's the difference between being an auxiliary parent and expecting to take on the roles of a whole parent. There are single moms that are requiring their daughters to cook, do the hair of all the girl, like, you see what I'm saying? Like all of that type of stuff.
My oldest sister, my oldest sister did.
I'm saying what I'm saying is,
y'all, or less?
Does she have what?
More or less kids than any of the other sisters?
No, we all have 2 children.
She was the first one to have kids?
No, actually, she was. Well, I'll say my brother was the last, but she was the third. She was the third in line. So it was 3 of us. I'm the youngest girl, and she had children after. It was kind of like my middle sister, then me, then her.
So when she was talking about the sequence of events earlier, right, or the sequence of success, or I forget, yeah. I think that when you put them, because I talk about this with my cousins all the time, because all the older cousins, we had kids after the kids we took care of had kids. And I think it makes you more responsible, but it also makes you like
not want to have kids.
not want to go through this. Like, it's different being a parent for my own kid. I used to say this all the time. I didn't have the sex. Why do I have to raise the child? I used to be mad about this. Like, it could breed some resentment. That's what I'm gonna say. It could breed some resentment.
Okay.
That's how, and I agree with that, because that's why when I had my son and my daughter were so far apart, I wanted to make sure that if I had to go somewhere, I'll ask him to watch her sometimes, but I'll pay him to watch her, or I will just take her to her friend, to the sitter's house. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to make sure I didn't have one of those situations where my son took on, taking care of my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't want to be that parent. Because I know a lot of parents are like that. But did you have something to say, mistaken? Because I was going to change the subject.
No, I'm just saying I'm not concerned. Not that I want to put my kids in that situation, but I definitely know if anything happened to me, if I passed first and my husband was here, my kids will step in, or vice versa. If something happened to him and I'm here, they're gonna step in. Not that I'm intentionally put them in that, putting them in as like they're my, meal ticket or something like that. But that was just the way that
you're
raised. You know what I'm saying?
Some people, I think that we're not, I think that we have to step outside ourselves and understand everybody is not as family oriented as we are. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about people like you have a very close knit family. Mm-hmm. I have a very close knit family. It's just the way we do, but that's not necessarily everybody's story. Mm-hmm. Some people don't come from that village that it took to raise, everybody. And so those are the people who might end up not having, because that connection is just not there. They don't see it. Like, my kids see me taking, knowing that we have a responsibility to look out for grandparents. So you instill it in them, and so forth. But I don't think that that's how these generations are being raised these days. I think it's really different on the raising, how people are being raised. Am I right? I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, mistaken on that's how the village should be putting in. What I'm saying is, it seems to a lot of people, like, say, that generation of parents that was on drugs, or that generation of parents that just, for whatever reason, were absent, and it wasn't specifically to work, or what, like, that bred a lot of resentment. Because what essentially happened is children got robbed of their childhood, and then in adulthood we expected to repay you back for something you didn't do for us when we was kids.
Mhm.
That's what I'm describing. Not the if you took like my grandma, I ain't never got a problem doing nothing for her ever, but she actually,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
It will
saying?
it will be my pleasure to take care of my mother and father the way they took care of me. For these kids, it's gonna feel like their burden, their greatest burden in life.
Because of the way they're being raised.
Yeah, I was changing the catheter and all type of stuff for my grandma. I never had a complaint. Happily do. I can't say that for everybody though, because I'm gonna do it. Don't get me wrong, I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna do what needs to be done. Men do what needs to be done all the time. But am I gonna be happy about it, or I'd be lying if I say in my head I wouldn't be thinking like, you finessed me because you didn't. I'd be lying if I say I would not have that thought process.
Ooh, especially when she calling you to get the remote like you 10 years old. Like, oh, get out of my house.
Like for me, like even for me, I don't think it's just only my responsibility to help take care of my parents as they get older. Now that I'm married, I also think it's my responsibility to also help take care of my mother-in-law. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just because all of that is family. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think it's great.
You literally are one of the rare ones that will ever say the mother-in-law.
I love my mother-in-law.
I think that too. Like I
love her. I was just actually having a conversation with her last week about, all right, when are you moving in with us? Because she's getting older, and she's just like, I'm not. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, yes, you are. She's like, no, I'd rather be in a home. And I'm like, what? No,
because Earl is in the home, honey.
I'm about to say they get to have sex in the home.
It's gonna be at bingo night.
Bingo.
Listen, I can't be mad at grandmama for that.
I'm gonna need love too, Jody.